Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a Ragtag podcast. It's been a bit. There's this face, this ugly mug, and then a new ugly mug up there. For me up there. We got Zach Evans. If you'd like to introduce yourself, sir.
Happy to be here. Think I'm very ragtag myself.
Oh yeah,
So just like you said, if you like this ugly mug, continue watching. In the mortgage industry, I'm a loan officer, so contact me if you need a home. But
please
huge
contact
into
him.
sports, big Washington Caps fan, big Ravens fan. Excited to get this going, man.
Thank you, thank you. Because and the reason why we're here today is because we are friends. I have him. He has some, and we're here
Couple.
today. We're here. There's only so many of us.
That's true.
Um, and we're here because we love playing video games together, and I think we have some pretty good, hot takes, some sauciness to put out there.
I would say so. I would say that in some moments we can definitely swipe right on certain things that we really love. I think the heat of it all is good.
Thank you for that reference because I am on Tinder, guys. If you see me on Tinder, um, I usually prefer a nice Latina, and Ryan Gosling. So, of recent, and especially because it's new, um, and I mean the game's been out since what is it? I think last October, the Modern Warfare 2.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
and I think we both played the first reboot, right?
That we have. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I thought the first one was really good. And the second one is a decent successor to the first one.
I would agree with that. I think I'm glad that Call of Duty finally got back to their roots. I think boots on the ground combat and Modern Warfare was definitely their strength back when they were building their games.
Agreed.
You look at some of their biggest successful games. It was the Modern Warfare. It was Black Ops One. It was even Black Ops Two, and that was starting to get slightly futuristic. But
Yeah.
I think if you look at successful CODs, it's the CODs that people can relate to the most. It's not the jumping on the wall. It's
Advanced
not the,
Warfare.
exactly. It's not
Yeah.
Call of Duty Ghosts where you're teleporting around the map. Um, it also could be we're biased because when we grew up, when we were teenagers, those were the CODs that were out. But I definitely feel like
We're both
the,
almost 25 for you guys.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm in my Kobe year, just past the Jordan year. So,
Yeah.
um, but no, I definitely think that it was important for them to get back to boots on the ground, modern warfare, rather than continue with this. Let's admit it, World War II was so
No, I agree. The boots on the ground is a staple. It's obviously it's not like sure we all love the thought of being in a futuristic place, doing all these crazy stuff. But
definitely
to be realistic, I don't know what that's like.
no.
Neither do I know actual war. I've never been in actual war, but I've watched videos. Um,
Right,
and
right.
I think and it's been a staple, like you said, for many years, and I'm glad that they've stuck with it. Um,
Agreed.
and I think it's brought back a resurgence, because COD was definitely declining. Um,
Definitely on the decline. I think when it comes to that kind of stuff, if you want a game where you're going for futuristic stuff, and for people our age, this might be a little far-fetched, but I think that's where you step over and you go to Fortnite and you're like, all right, if I want to use a Kamehameha, I'm going to go to Fortnite.
yeah,
We're going to leave that out of COD. So, Fortnite's abilities to pick up the licenses is already something I've never seen
yes,
before in the
it's
business.
crazy.
So it's wild to me, but Activision pulled in Neymar and Messi for the World Cup, so really, what can you do?
No, that's very true. I mean, and that's another thing. Like these Activision and EA are just such big juggernauts. They're just pulling in, well, and obviously Epic Games. They're pulling in all these insane companies that come in, between Disney and well, Marvel's part of Disney, but
Right.
all that. Now back to Warzone, and because they just come out, they came back out with Warzone 2.
Right. Yes.
Um, and I would like to say that we all love the first one. It had its ups and downs, but Verdansk,
It's classic.
classic.
I think it's another one of those things you just don't know what you have until it's gone. I
Yeah.
mean, the countless amount of times that me and you and Zach would camp in the air traffic control will never be forgotten. Those are some of the best Warzone moments I had. And the fact that, we used to shit on it back then
Yeah.
is disappointing because now I would do anything to get back to Verdansk.
I would swipe right on Joe Biden because I love him.
That's right.
Just to get Verdansk back. Um, no, agreed. And Warzone 2, just I don't know if it didn't capture my heart like the first one did. And especially with the bugs.
Oh yeah.
It is insane. I feel like anytime I went into a lobby, there was just bugs. Like stuff was I mean at that point I feel like they should just I don't know, it's like the Hindenburg should just came in and just like blown up half the map.
Honestly,
Eh,
honestly.
it made no sense being a AAA, game and a company so reputable for having, these games and then
Definitely.
having Warzone like to come out with, this that just wasn't good.
Well, and I think what is most important there in this day and age, it's kind of wild. You touched on this with the juggernauts of EA and Activision and these companies that run the gaming business. I mean, if you want to play a football game, you've got to go Madden. 2K
Yeah.
discontinued their football, things like that. EA is bringing back NCAA sports, and that's going to be this is such a big opportunity for EA to kind of revive themselves with NCAA. If NCAA isn't to the quality of what it used to be with all the different modes of you being able to be a prospect, a 4-star, 5-star, pick your school, all that kind of stuff. If they come in and they just re-release Madden with NCAA players, I think you'll see very, very, very angry fan bases come back. But the reason why I touch on that is you touched on the bugs and stuff. It blows my mind. I mean, looking at Warzone was bad, right? But
Yeah.
EA that runs DICE, I mean, let's talk about how bad Battlefield was when it was first released. I
Oh
mean, how how are you making this much money paying this many developers and releasing games that are this subpar? Like me and you could have created a better game with a couple weeks of training, it seems like.
I totally agree, and that's our next venture, guys. All right.
Yep, you got it. Donate to our
Yes, please
only
donate.
PlayStation fans.
No, I agree, and especially because I'm not sure if you remember Frostbite 3, that engine that Dice had. Um,
Right.
they started with I think it was Battlefield, but they started plastering it on every single game, like Need for Speed, Madden. Like I think
FIFA
one
picked
or
up Frostbite as well too.
yeah, and at some point it just wasn't working because like the especially for Madden, I don't know how. I mean, it was good at the time, but at some point the collision where it just wasn't working, and I don't know it. I feel like at some point they try to consolidate and make everything the same because I feel like if you're gonna, especially with like between Madden and then like racing games and a shooter, there should be different engines that like work for each thing.
100%.
Um, it's a different collision when you're hitting someone with your shoulder versus T-boning someone on the interstate.
Definitely. Definitely.
I think the collision focus should be different. And same thing like with Battlefield when there's like a giant building crumbling down on you.
Right.
That's different than catching a punt and then it like, it feels, out of your hand and
Definitely.
like fumbles.
Definitely.
Um, so I think they try to cut corners a lot of times and, and just get that moolah.
They do. And so here's what's interesting to me is that FIFA is EA's golden child. So soccer being the most reputable sport around
Yeah,
the
biggest
world.
sport in the world, yeah.
Exactly. They get the most players on that and they get the biggest fan base. And there are a couple competitors. PES absolutely ruined themselves when they
Heard
switched
about
their
that.
game free to play and all that kind of stuff. PES just went down the drain. There's a new soccer game coming out that's called like UFL, and it actually looks really good. But it's like, can it take on and hold on to FIFA? And that's I don't know about that. But
Yeah.
the thing is with FIFA, especially with the newest FIFA, there was a new Hypermotion 2 engine that it ran on.
Hmm.
And I will say this FIFA was probably the best FIFA in a couple years. It felt different, it played different, it played more like real life situations. There are still those times in FIFA where you're like, can this guy really do this in real life? And then you watch soccer and you're like, oh my God. I mean, I'm a huge soccer fan, so it blows my mind what
What's
people
your
can do.
team?
So I sport multiple teams. People are gonna hate on me in the comments or whatever, but in the Premier League, I'm an Arsenal supporter. Have
Okay.
been, always will be. So we're top of the league right now. We'll see how long that holds on for. I've gone through some shit the past couple of years with Arsenal. And then in like France, I rock with PSG.
Okay.
Italy, I rock with Juventus. And then
I've lost
Spain.
that.
Spain, I don't really have a favorite. It's just fun to watch Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Yeah,
Um, it
because
was fun
that
to
was where Messi was for a long time, right?
exactly, and
Yeah.
it was fun to watch Messi, Ronaldo, and it's really disappointing to see that kind of dissipate. It's also disappointing to watch Ronaldo fall off the cliff that he has.
Mm.
But they made a different engine for that, and that
The fall
completely.
of Messi or
Oh,
Ronaldo. Yeah, they made an
yeah,
engine for that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's called the Downfall 3.0. No,
He's been frostbit in the ass.
you, honestly, he
Yeah.
should seek medical attention for that. If he buys the battle pass, it'll get rid of it. So no, if they did that with Madden though, I mean, I think it would change so much because with FIFA, they show you how they make the thing and they hook all the 1,500 sensors up to players and then
Oh
they
yeah.
have them play a game. And I think if they did, obviously for Madden, it's tough to have sensors that are going to get like smashed or like,
Yeah.
like it's tough to simulate tackling. I will say when we've been playing franchise recently, if you hurdle and you get tackled while you're hurdling, the MFer does do a flip. So they did change the mechanics a little. He doesn't just like fall down. They were getting slightly realistic, but
Yeah.
we're not there.
I will say to that point also because 2K is I think 2K is one of the best looking like face models of like video like of most video games. And they have to stake it on that because like what else are you going to look at in that game?
Right.
The cheerleaders, come on. Um um but every year they always bring in like the players and then they do the mocap and everything so they get their dunking styles, their passing styles,
Right.
everything like that, just like you were saying for FIFA.
Right.
Um so I think that's what put those games over the top. You get a lot of the animations, shooting styles, for basketball, dunking styles, crossovers, and it's catered to all these different players. And I think that's what puts it over the top, and that's why 2K and FIFA are been just I think better looking games, especially more of recent than Madden.
Definitely.
Madden I feel like hasn't looked good in a while.
That's true.
Um,
And to be fair, for everyone watching/listening, we're playing on the PS4 version of Madden 25
yeah,
or Madden 23. So the PS5 version might have some things that we're
even though
missing
we
out on.
have we do have PS5s though.
We do, we
Don't
do.
worry.
You know,
Yeah, we're not broke boys. No.
um, but I think like when you look at Madden and you look at games like NHL, the lower games on the EA totem pole, the
Yeah.
games that, it's very select player bases. You're not going to get a lot of international. Like with NHL, you might get a lot of Canada and things like that, but you're not going to get a lot of overseas like 2K and maybe FIFA would,
Yeah.
because I know basketball is really popular in Europe as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You can pick between Germany, Australia, a lot of European teams.
Exactly, exactly. And you can't do that with the NFL. They don't have,
No.
other leagues and NHL, you can pick some of the other like Russian leagues, things like that, but I just don't think it has the following over there that FIFA and 2K have. Um, but it's just we've touched on this when we've played before. How much do developers, what's the perfect balance between graphics and gameplay?
Yeah.
Like, where do you set the bar? Is it 60 graphics, 40 gameplay, or do you move the bar? Because for me, one of my favorite Maddens is probably, Madden 13, Calvin Johnson
Yeah,
ripping
yeah,
off, that Madden is so memorable to me, maybe because it was like one of the first Maddens on the new console, PS4 back then. But like, I feel like that was like graphics were like a 30, gameplay was a 70. And I
yeah.
truly, we all love MW2. Graphics were a 25, but gameplay was a 75. So I didn't care that the burger in Burger Town was pixelated. I wanted to eat it. So, it
What
was,
was Madden 13 the one with the Ray Lewis intro?
I feel like it was. I feel like it was because I remember that also the
Yeah.
intros definitely. Is this the
Oh.
intro?
Yeah.
For those of you who don't play Madden 23, there's some very annoying songs in the soundtrack. But I feel like the intro changes everything for Madden
They
20, I think it
do.
was. Big numbers. I mean, going to the
Big
game with
numbers.
big numbers, that was a big hype up.
I think that was the one because I remember whenever I started up that Madden, I would just let the intro play, and it's just like, yeah,
Exactly.
it's Ray Lewis in the locker room. Is like they've been doubting me,
Right.
they say I couldn't do it,
Right.
and then he's like, he does his dance, and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm hyped to play Madden now.
Right, exactly. You're like, I don't even care if this game looks like trash. I'm about to lay somebody out. So,
And then I get blown out like 35-0, but it's all right because Ray Lewis hyped me up in the beginning.
you know what? You grab a bag of Cheetos and you move on, I guess.
Like a nice Dr. Pepper and some Cheetos.
Oh, game fuel.
Game fuel for the nerds out there. Um, what was I gonna say?
Well, it's a good segue if we're talking about Madden. The XFL season just started,
Oh yeah.
so we're gaining some viewership there, and I caught myself watching it over the weekend just because it's like, oh, it's football. Like everybody craves football, obviously. So like it was, it's good, and that whole 4th and 15, AJ McCarron coming back. First of
Oh
all, good for AJ McCarron, man. I,
yeah, I
I love
know.
the guy. I love the guy. So good for AJ McCarron. But like that 4th and 15, give me your thoughts on, if they brought that to the NFL, would it be fair? And do you think it would make games more exciting?
I think it made games 10 times more exciting. I think people are already, and honestly, I could see it happening more often than not because if you see the way that the NFL is trending towards fourth downs, and especially if you looked at the Eagles and this, like, especially in this playoff run and towards the latter half of the season, they worked their offense. Um, they worked their offense to be more manageable on fourth downs. So,
100%.
like, if they knew that it was going to be a fourth down, then they would run the ball, and then if they got like maybe with two, most likely 1 yard, they're easily going for it. If it's two, they're think about it. But
100%.
they work their offense towards a fourth down, and I think that a 4th and 15 would be something that's very doable for the NFL, just because I think the league is running towards just going on fourth down more often.
Right. And I would almost argue, and this is going to be the hot side of the argument. I would almost argue that converting a 4th and 15 would be more difficult than recovering an onside kick, but it would be
Yes.
way more entertaining to watch. So, when you're doing an onside kick, sometimes all it takes is like there's so much chaos on an onside kick that it's amazing to me how many of them actually don't go the kicking team's way because so many people like will let the ball go when they should have gotten it, or they'll slip, or they won't catch it because they're nervous. Like onside kicks are definitely one of those things I feel like they definitely should go the kicking team's way more than what they do.
Yes.
But I feel like a 4th and 15, onside kick is one person's mistake. The person who's getting the ball, if he muffs it, there's a huge chance for the kicking team. Whereas a 4th and 15, you're talking about 11 guys on defense, and if you're going up against a top defense like the Eagles, you're relying on one or two players fully messing up to the point where it's
True.
like unrecoverable for the rest of the players in the field. If you let up a 10-yard pass, hopefully you would have other guys in the area to tackle them down. But to get 15 yards, I feel like people don't realize, like, we all watch football, and when it's 3rd and 1, we're like, oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
We're not sitting up against 400-pound men that, lift school buildings for breakfast. So,
Yeah, not often for me.
maybe once in a while after some special play,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know. I think
No,
it would be exciting.
I agree. And I guess this brings up a question. Would you, on that 14-15, would you egregiously, if you're the ref, or if you're, setting the rules for this, would you egregiously call a penalty on those types of plays? Like, because if you, let's say, you're Tyreek Hill, and you're going against James Bradbury or Darius Slay, and you're running a streak, and then you do a little move, you're running, he can't necessarily keep up with you, so he tugs you, you know, and then you break free, or it's a pass interference. Do they get either a closer second try, or do they, or like, how would you, like, how is that going to be called? Like, would you still consider penalties a thing in that point?
It would be murky water for sure. I think just like the XFL, you saw an example of it this weekend. So one of the XFL teams was going for a 2-point try from the 5-yard line. They got a false start and they moved back to the 10. That doesn't make it a 3-point try. The 10-yard line would normally be a 3-point try, but they
Yeah.
moved him back. It was still a 2-point try, but they had to do it from the 10. So I think it depends on the penalty. I think you play it just like any other down. So, if you get it offsides, now it's 4th and 10 rather than 4th and 15. But if you get
Yeah.
like a defensive pass interference or something that's an automatic first down, I think you have to give it. But I think it should get enforced from the 25-yard line, since that's where kickoffs
Hmm.
come from anyway. So like, otherwise the strategy on 4th and 15 would be to heave it up
Yeah.
and get a PI and be on the opponent's 5-yard line. So maybe you go to where defensive PIs are 15-yard penalties, and you would get the ball on the 40-yard line then. And that way it gives some leeway for defenders being able to play the ball aggressively,
Yeah.
and it doesn't ruin the game. Now, here's where it gets murky. Is that an untimed play? Because,
Mm.
for example, if you're winning, right,
Yeah.
you could, and you got to kick it off. And let's say there's 7 seconds left, something killable if you run a longer play,
Yeah.
rather than squib kicking it, or rather than kicking it off and putting your defense on the field for a play, you know, do you do the 4th and 15 and try to run out the clock? So that's my biggest question, is does it become untimed, or, how would that work? Because it might give a competitive advantage to teams in the lead sometimes as well.
Yeah. That's very true. Because I guess in my thought, I would consider it in the same lines as a 2-point conversion.
Right.
It's one of those, like, you're opting to do this to, advance your team to leading to a score.
Right.
Outside of the field of play. And I think that's how, at least the 2-point conversion is, because there's no, real time, sometimes the stats don't necessarily, count or whatever, but the points do. So I at least in my thought, I would put it into that realm,
Right.
of a 2-point conversion.
Right. So outlandish, but in the NHL in the regular season, when they go to overtime, they go to 3-on-3 because the
Mhm.
action opens wide up. The NHL is one of the most exciting sports to watch in overtime during the regular season because it's just wild play. Obviously they play, I think it's 80, 64, 84, 82 games.
Yeah, yeah,
They play
yeah.
a lot more games than NFL players do. But do you think you'd ever like to see it's NFL overtime? We pull the lineman and it's 7-on-7, or you can
Oh,
only pass the ball. Like, does it become too backyard then, or do you think it would just be this exciting, fun thing?
that's a good question. It would be very backyard, but I would also, oh man, because I feel like the XFL is very backyard.
That's true.
And that would be interesting as an overtime. Yeah, because I don't, but yeah, like, it becomes like a shootout, and
And you're also, I think in that case, you're removing, you know, NFL players' biggest gripes is they were holding on that
Yeah.
drive, things like that. You're removing that. And, you could still have PI, things like that. But, like you're doing a good old 7-on-7. The quarterback's not allowed to get out of the pocket. Um, I
Yeah.
guess it just becomes the problem with that is then it would just become which receiver can hold on long enough to get open because
Yeah.
eventually somebody's going to
Someone
get
will get
open,
open.
I
Yeah.
feel like. So it's just a funny idea. But lastly, and this is kind of an unscripted topic here, but with sports betting getting bigger and bigger and bigger, would you say that your confidence in the integrity of the NFL is going down? Or do you still feel confident that as sports betting grows, Vegas will keep their hand out of the pot?
It's scripted. The NFL scripted. Um,
Adrian Foster said it. He
Adrian,
said it.
it's true. How many tweets people have tweeted is like, oh, Robert Griffin, look at the script for 2020. Oh my God.
JPP
Um,
looking at his hand before the season. So, I mean, like,
I lose three fingers. Uh, but from what?
right. Greg Williams before the bounty scandal,
Oh my gosh.
it's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, it's interesting because I do sometimes feel like um stuff that shouldn't happen or stuff that should happen ends up not happening.
Sure.
Um, and obviously I know there's upsets here and there. Um, but obviously betting is a big part of it makes like money, insane amount of money. One for just Vegas, and the whole sports betting, um, just
I like spetting
sports
sports.
betting,
You better.
um, just kind of motif like the whole business and uh, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, but it definitely does play a big part in all of it.
Definitely. Definitely.
Um, yeah,
I mean, I think as it gets bigger, I think the risk becomes bigger. I mean, for me, I've seen that FIFA, the biggest soccer governing body in the world, can become corrupt. So for me, it's like maybe corruption starts to seep into the NFL. As the NFL gets bigger, it's always a possibility. As Vegas gets its hand deeper into the pot, as people bet more money on the NFL, as more money goes around, as you know, Josh, money talks.
money talks.
It talks.
I'm pretty sure that's a song on Madden. I could be wrong.
It probably is. And if it's not, it's best brother, big numbers.
Big
Definitely.
no, yeah. That's what you get your money up. That's
Get
what it
some
is.
money.
Get some
Get
money. Get your money. Get some money.
I feel like it's a commercial for JG Wentworth in the game. Get some money.
If you have cash settlements and need cash now, call
So
JG.
if JG Wentworth is listening to this podcast, reach out to us.
Yeah, please. I need my money now. And I know you have it.
It's my money. I want to use it when I need it.
But please put us in your next commercial.
Yeah, please.
So, and I do agree. I, I think a lot of and Vegas controls a lot of stuff because I listen to a lot of different fantasy podcasts. And sometimes they'll say like, "Hey, look at the Vegas lines," because sometimes we put so much faith into Vegas and like those like the over and under lines, like
Right.
like for fantasy wise, like they'll be like, "Who should I play this week?" Garrett Wilson is going against with the Jets going against the Vikings. Their defense is bad. I think they'll get he should have the over of 63 yards.
Right.
And you're gonna trust it, and you're like, look at your other receivers,
Yeah.
and you're gonna like, I'm gonna play them. And a lot of times, and that's where you get into the whole gambling thing, and it really does affect everything, like all those little aspects of the game. And
100%.
it does have a big hold on it, and it definitely could, have a little bit of a corrupt because it affects not only fantasy, but obviously the game. It affects people who don't even bet because I may not bet, but I play fantasy, and it's still affecting maybe players that I choose to play.
Definitely, definitely. We do put a lot of trust. I mean, when you're drafting a fantasy player, there are plenty of fantasy players day by day that just draft the one that has the highest projected. They
Yeah.
don't actually think about, deeper things like is the running back one injured, like things like that. So they do put a lot of faith into Vegas, and Vegas, I'm sure, likes that. But if we're seeping into corruption, I know we touched on game developers earlier,
Oh yeah.
Activision. Good luck with a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So PS State of Play is coming up. So
Yes.
we're talking about big games, big things,
Big
you
numbers.
know, big numbers. If you wanted to get some money, and what if you're PlayStation and you wanted to get some money, what do you do to reignite your fan base? Because I think personally, and I think me and you are on the same page with this. And again, I might catch a lot of fire on this.
Oh, I don't
I'm
know
a
if I'm gonna get
console
paid.
guy
Of
through and
course, no,
through.
yes, of course.
So this is a $500 purchase, $700 for me. Yes, I was one of those people that paid extra money because I wanted it in the beginning.
I got it for 5.
Man, um,
I got lucky.
you definitely did. Like I said, I bought my PS5 from a guy in the White Marsh police station parking lot. So
At least it was on a
shout out to
neutral
that
site.
guy.
A
um
neutral site.
he was a scalper, unfortunately, which is a whole nother topic to talk about. But he that was my only way to get a PS5 was to buy off of him, and I wanted it. When you look at these computers, they're $1,200 to $1,500 just to get
Very true.
started, and then you're upgrading them every 2 to 3 years to stay current, whereas a console has a 7 to 8 year lifetime. So I'm a big console guy. I think consoles are the way to go. I think I console I miss, totally miss the PSP. Bring back mobile PlayStation games.
I've been seeing a lot of people wanting that. I'm not sure if you heard of the Backbone.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Not necessarily like the total step I'd want them to go, but like I totally agree. Um, and yeah, you have a Switch, right?
I do, and that's what I was about to touch on. So I'll let you
Yeah.
I'll let you go. But like
Thank you.
when a game developer sees the success that a Switch has, why do they not think we had the PSP before it was cool?
I
Like
know. I actually think I still have my old original PSP. Um,
so,
it, it's crazy. Like, yeah, talking about the Switch, it sure it's becoming more outdated now, but when it came out, I think 2017,
right.
that shit was on fire, man. It's still like one of the highest selling consoles, I think, or it's reached that mark. Um, and it just, and all like kudos to Nintendo. They make great games.
Definitely.
But with the Switch, they made a valiant effort to include more one indie games, which I think people, it really helps that market. But also
100%.
the AAA games with mature games, like I can play Skyrim on the plane or like in the back of
Right.
my
Right.
minivan where my
Yeah.
mom's driving me to fucking work.
Right. You can play it at work. I mean, who's
Yeah.
stopping you, right? Like that's kind of my point is like the mobility of it, nothing beat it. For me, I think Nintendo had ulterior motives. So when it comes to Nintendo, when they released the Switch, they cut the DS line. And I know
Oh
growing up as a
yes,
kid, the DS was all the rave. I mean,
all right.
Diamond, Pearl, all the Pokemon
DSi.
games. Oh, the 3DS, the DSi with the camera. I remember I would
Yeah.
walk around taking pictures of my room as a child, and I just thought it was like the coolest thing, even though mobile phones existed by then.
I
But
know. Have you
like,
seen the trend where people would like record now like concerts and like with the DSi camera?
I never saw that.
Yeah,
Is
there's
that a
like a
trend now or a trend back then?
it was like maybe like last year, like towards the end, but people would start bringing out their old DSIs and taking videos and cameras and shit. It was
That's
crazy. It was
that
pretty
is
cool.
crazy. But I think for Nintendo, they were like, we can cut an entire production line of a mobile device, give them both in one, satisfy our customer,
I love to be
and then
satisfied.
focus on building the console to be the best version of itself. Now, I will say it kind of seems like this OLED Switch, there was a lot of hype going into Nintendo making like a Switch Pro or
Of
like an
course.
upgraded Switch, especially because games like Skyrim on the Switch don't exactly look that great.
Yeah, yeah.
So the OLED was a good graphical advancement that I think the Switch needed, but I definitely think it was a disappointment to the software that the Switch, people were hoping that Call of Duty was going to come to the Switch, and I think that there are development plans for it.
Yeah, Activision, speaking of which, well, technically Microsoft, because Microsoft owns them,
Right,
has made I think it's like a 10-year plan to put COD on there.
right, right. And
Um,
that would be huge. I cannot imagine, like, for me, just like I said, I'm a console guy. I love to sit at my desk. I love to play, but like if I could, I mean, good luck to all the men that already spend too much time in the bathroom because this would be life ending.
yeah, I usually just sit there in silence. So this would be a big step. Oh, it has been a big step up for me, but to play COD on the toilet, I mean, I already try to do that just by echolocation. I just have the controller in my hands and then I just see if
They're
someone's
right.
shitting at me.
It
Um,
brings a whole new meaning to shit talking.
uh, that'd be pretty good. I'm on the toilet. I'm like, it's like, you suck. It's
Right. Like, you know who's bad at this game? Your mom.
like,
Oh
I'm
man.
actually shit talking you. I'm on the toilet.
Right. Oh,
um, yeah. And then, well, and then Legend of Zelda, the newest, it's Tears of the Kingdom is coming out soon for the Switch, and I know there's some concerns. One because graphical fidelity.
right.
It is reaching its limit, and it the Breath of the Wild looked great for what it was at the time. But it is, games are hitting new strides, and that game looks like it's going to be a whole new monster.
100%. Yeah.
With everything. But hey, the PS5 has fantastic graphics.
It does.
For what it
For
is.
those of you who don't know, we blew Josh's mind about a week ago with the if you have two PS5s, you can screen share and you can run picture in picture,
That's great.
which for Josh, this was life changing. I wish we had the audio clip for it because it was, I mean, you were very impressed by it. But
Yeah, you
that's the
can
kind of
pin in the picture. I can
um
watch you play.
but I would pay personally, I would pay good money for them to bring the PSP back. If I could play Madden 23 on the go or like
Oh yeah.
handheld, or if I could play NHL or COD would be a little tough just because of how small the screen is. So I understand there's limits to the games that you can bring, not just because it's hard to shrink the game into
Of
that
course.
and make it work on a system that small, but it's also like if I can't see the biggest reason people play on computers and they sit 12 inches from their screen is because in COD you see a little blip and you're like, there's a guy, there's a guy, so
He's in the
whereas
corner. Get him.
like, it's always the joke, like you're playing against your brother and it starts out as this and then you do this. And
Yeah.
it's like the sitting closer to the screen is like what we need to focus.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
like, just chilling. It's like, this game's getting serious.
first down, fourth down, like,
Fourth and 15.
right, exactly. So, um, so yeah, so going, like I said, I would love a mobile PlayStation. So for me, from the PlayStation State of Play, I know it won't happen, but I would
Yes,
love for
that's a
them to
big
come out and
ask.
be like, we're re-releasing the PSP. It's gonna start at $399. I think that's reasonable. And we're going to re-release a bunch of old games. We're going to put Madden on there. You can connect your PS5 so you can, like, cross
Remote
play,
play.
things like that.
Yeah.
But
And we're
I
calling
think
it the PS5 and a half.
the PS5 and a half. I just think that would be so life changing at this point.
That would be an insane. I think people would go bonkers. I think Last of Us would actually happen. No. People would start becoming zombies. I agree. I think that'd be crazy. Will it happen? Probably not. What I think is more likely to happen, and what I hope to happen, would be an announcement for Spider-Man 2.
Oh,
I would like to see gameplay. I want to see gameplay. I want to see the whole shebang. I
right.
want to see. I played the first one, and I know how he rocks. I've played Miles Morales. I know how he rocks. I want to see how they're going to integrate both these characters into one fluid like gameplay experience. Is
Definitely.
it a switch on and off, or is it like, hey, I'm playing as Peter, and then hey, I'm playing as Miles, like
Right. Is it like
it
a whole like GTA, you walk into a
yes.
room and then you walk out and you're Miles, or you walk, so like, I get that. And
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong, Spider-Man is a PlayStation exclusive, correct?
exclusive only to PlayStation. Yes.
Good to know.
You're welcome. It's yeah, and made by Insomniac. Uh, which I think is a very good studio. They made Ratchet and Clank,
Oh, okay.
and a lot of those games. They did have a little stint over at Xbox. We don't talk about that, but I I heard that it was a game called Sunset Overdrive, and I heard it was a pretty good game.
Right,
Um,
right.
Now that same studio, Insomniac Games, also making another Marvel property. Uh,
Full snap.
and they teased it a little bit ago, but it's the Wolverine, if you know that man. The man with
Unfortunately, I
the
know that man
animated
all
claw.
too well. I owed him some money, sandwich. He settled that debt. So,
When we met in
but that
Canada.
that sounds like it would be a fun game. I think, when I log online, for me, if you or Zach or one of my other five friends is
Yeah.
not online, it's very difficult for me to like be like, oh, like I don't. When I was 15, I'd hop into a COD lobby with my mic on and we'd be like, let's go for it. Let's make friends or let's trash talk.
Yeah.
At
On the
24,
toilet.
you're just kind of like, well, I guess I'm not playing.
Yeah.
It's important to have that single player game where your
Oh, of
friends
course.
aren't on, and Marvel is the perfect creates perfect single player games for those kinds of moments.
I agree because they have an abundance of stories, great characters that everyone knows and loves. And this game I know will be a M-rated game. I am mature. I'm 25. I can purchase it by myself.
Debatable.
It's funny story. One time for I think it was Black Ops 2. I tried to go in there and buy it myself. Guy would not let me have it. So I had to go back in the car and get my dad to get it for me. But I try to pass it off.
Yes, I am 12. Check my birth certificate.
Another funny story. I one time I went to it was Father's Day. I went to Dick's Sporting Goods, and
Thank you for
and
clarification.
and I went to and I've never ever seen Bear Grylls. The
Yes.
survival
Yep.
guest. He had a knife. And I went to go try and purchase the knife for my father, and it was like probably like this big. It's a big knife.
Right. Right.
Um,
Okay.
maybe I'm not scaling right, but whatever. This is big.
Right. The size matter when it comes to knives. So.
This can hurt someone. It stabs. Um, but so I went to there, and it's like in the hunting section, and I went to go try and grab it, and the guy comes over. He's like, "Oh, let me unlock that for you." So he unlocks the lock and gives it to me. I go over to the front desk, and then I'm going through the entire purchase, and at the end, the cashier, she's like, "Oh, just to double check, can I see your ID?" I'm 14. I don't have an ID. I'm like, this is a Father's Day gift. You're gonna ruin Father's Day.
No.
I
You
go over
pulled the
cry.
dad card.
Yeah, I go over crying to my father. Uh, just get that. You're gonna buy the knife for yourself. And I said that no, I wasn't crying, but I said I
Right.
gave him the money. I was like, here's my money. You pay for it with my money for giving it to you. So
Okay. Well, first of all, look at the maturity of a 14-year-old buying his dad a Father's Day gift.
I know. I don't know
That's
how we got the
something
money.
else.
I,
I will tell you a story to bank off of that. The first time I went into Walmart, Amanda, my girlfriend, was extremely sick, and I went into Walmart just to get some Dayquil, NyQuil. We had just turned like I think it was like 20, and of course at checkout, you scan it and it's like, is the customer 18? And I was like, you never think of these things like
Yeah.
as I don't think I would ever, if I was working the self checkout at Walmart and some little boy rolled up with a bag of NyQuil and tried to purchase it, like, what do you do in that situation? Like,
I'm
I'm sorry,
imag
son.
I'm imagining like two kids in a trench coat.
Like standing on top of each
Yeah.
other.
Like
It's like,
I'm
what's
trying to
your
buy this
ID? And
NyQuil.
it's like they flip over a Burger King coupon. It's
Like,
like,
I want
listen, you can't have it your way, buddy.
Whopper, Whopper. Uh, a lyrical song that should be appreciated more. No, I hate that song. They play it all the time. Um,
But at the same time, you love it. It's like,
oh yeah.
I don't know. It's there's some things in life you just have to keep around to bag on them all the time. And this is a funny topic. There's I heard this a long time ago. I think it was Dane Cook. Could be wrong.
Okay.
Dane Cook. But he talks about like there's a friend in every friend group that nobody likes. And if you don't know who it is, it's you. And it's like you just keep this friend along just to bag on him all the time. And
Oh,
like
the
you
scapegoat.
exactly, you like them. Like
Yes.
you don't want to admit that you like them, but then as soon as you get in the party, you're like, dude, Jeff sucks. Like like
Who invited this guy?
right. Like you he's the kind of friend where he gets online and unless you're like absolutely planning to play with him, you're like immediately appear offline. Like you just don't want him to know you. You're like, did you switch the party to private? And then he hops in the party. He's like, hi guys.
How are you guys' day today?
So there's I think that it's like one of those situations. You keep it around just a bag on it. So the Whopper Whopper song for me, honestly, that is 10 times better than my TikTok right now, which if I see one more goddamn TikTok of the did I, I'm gonna throw. Have you not seen it? Okay, so it's like this, it's the goat from I don't know what show it is. I'll have to pull it up while you're talking or something, but it's like it is unbelievable. The sound for our viewers is gonna be great, but it's like
Rip
it'll be a
headphones.
TikTok. I bet you I can find it with yeah, the did I goat. So it'll be like this one says, when I ask my mom about the money she owes me, and it's
Oh, that guy is from Hoodwinked.
yes.
I
So
love Hoodwinked.
at one point last night, I was laying in bed. It was 4 TikToks in a row that it was that filter and it was like that. And I was just like, forget this. I gotta get off.
That's great. It's funny how we have different for you pages. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, I get some interesting trends.
I feel
Uh,
like your TikTok is a lot of TNA.
um, no comment. Um, yeah, it definitely happens a lot more than it probably should.
But I think that's also TikTok targeting you,
That's
you know.
true. They know. They know.
They know. They know. It's social media is a wild game. If you get a chance to watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix, things that make you go, that's one of those movies.
Oh. Oh, okay. Okay.
It like talks about like how like Facebook has the algorithms, like if a guy, it'll detect like when a guy likes a girl and they haven't talked in a while, and it'll purposefully send you a notification to be like, this girl hasn't posted or this girl posted for the first time in a while. Like it like their algorithms perfectly work to send you notifications to like get you crawled back in, and like
That's
you should watch it. So it's called The Social Dilemma on Netflix. So good. It takes you into like how messed up it is, and literally how like every single day, excuse me, your personal information is like literally like basically like an eBay,
yeah.
and Facebook's like $5 and then Twitter's like $10, and then they buy that information, and then they're like, Joshua Keller, huh? He likes Marvel. He likes the Washington Commanders, and then they're just like And then you're scrolling TikTok and you're like, it's like, get the new Washington Commanders gear. And you're like, oh,
Yeah. I
so
it's that yeah, and I have Google Home, and I realized I was talking about something. I was perusing Instagram, and it's right up there.
it's crazy. They say your phone knows you're pregnant before you do. You're like it's like it's so crazy. I there are certain times, and I have my all of my home is basically hooked up to Alexa.
Nice.
I know we differ. So for the viewers out there, I'm Apple for life, Alexa for life, and this guy over here is unfortunately Google for life and Android
Fortunately.
for life.
Yeah.
He's the guy in our text chats that makes it go green instead of blue. So boo.
Green's my favorite color, so that works for me.
St. Patty's Day is coming up. I'll let it slide.
Fun fact, I was born I can't do math. 3 days before St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, snap. So we got a
Yeah,
birthday coming up next month.
that's right. That's right. I'll be, as I've said before, 25.
You know, it's funnier than 25,
20.
26.
Oh, damn. Um, and one, at least one quick thing I want to mention, that I hope, or maybe they do a surprise. I think would be great for PlayStation would be the addition of Discord.
100%. And they've teased it, the sword,
Oh,
when the sword comes out, that's when Discord will be released. It is in beta, so it's actually live
yeah,
on
yeah.
PS5s for certain people. It's in beta. I think that would make a huge difference. You bring crossplay onto the platform, but you know, I don't know about you, but having a Apple AirPod I mean, when we play with one
Yeah.
of our friends who's on PC, I stick an AirPod in here, and then it's also like the AirPod is fighting the headphones. And if somebody's coming from my right side on Warzone when we're playing, I'm generally effed. So, like when me and you play
Yeah,
Warzone by ourselves, I feel like I do better because I actually hear more. But I think the addition of Discord is monumental in bridging that crossplay gap.
I agree. Yeah, same here. I'll pop on my PC here, put up this little Mikey thing, and talk you guys through here, and have the old cocked headphones, and then listen to you guys, and then but I'll listen through the TV and whatever for the audio for the game. I think that would be that has to be like it's one thing to announce it again. I predict that they'll drop it tomorrow. I think they'll drop it tomorrow.
You have to. If you're going to tease it this bad, you have to. You can't. They've been teasing this for so long. I feel like they were just waiting for the big announcement. And I also feel like, these are what this event is for, is to look good in the
Yeah.
public eye and be the next greatest thing. So I feel like sometimes it's almost purposeful that developers and Sony and them and Microsoft, they hold on to things even though they have it ready, which is funny because then they release half done games, but they hold on to things that are ready. And then they're like, oh, look at us. Just like with Modern Warfare, having Afghan and Terminal and all these maps that they're going to re-release into the game. And they're just like, yeah, you're going to wait for that.
um, I guess before we wrap up here, any quick mentions of any other games or maybe hardware you want to see from PlayStation?
Games, I'm super hype. I'll keep it quick. Super hype for Dead Island 2. Dead
Okay.
Island 1 Definitive Edition was by far one of the greatest zombie games I've ever played.
Hmm.
It really gave Sony a competitor to Left 4 Dead, which I loved going over friends' houses and playing. So Dead Island 2 is finally coming out. It's been delayed, 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 delayed. I think it's supposed to come out in like the summer of this year. I'm extremely hyped for that. And hardware wise, I'm good with the PS5 the way it is. Keep updating it. I'm not gonna, we touched on it. I don't think I'm gonna be a big I don't know if I'm gonna buy the pro controllers and stuff. It might be
Yeah.
nice for the triggers and things. I just feel like that price tag for that controller is pretty steep.
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed.
but maybe um some re-releases. The last thing I would like to see is like re-release so they, when you can play PS3 games, things like that. a PS2 game I would love to play
They're
again.
getting rid of the catalog.
Yeah, exactly. So like they're pulling that. So like I would love to see like Midnight Club Dub Edition come back.
Hmm.
That was like my game. But no, I have some unrealistic. I want the PSP. I want Midnight Club. I feel a little nostalgic here, but overall, I'm hoping for progress. Obviously,
Yeah. No, that's good. I always gotta look ahead. Always gotta look
yeah,
ahead.
definitely. For you, what are we thinking?
I mean, besides the Marvel games, you got the was it Jedi Survivor coming out soon? I'm a big fan of I played the first one. It's similar to I'm not sure if you ever played like a Souls game or Sekiro. But it's a
I
little
don't
bit
know if I
hard.
have.
It's like a harder kind of um like kind of genre of like fighting game. There's a lot of
Right,
different like sword stances and stuff like that. I just look at. I mean, they did come up with the gameplay. It should be coming out soon. Um, I don't know anything on the top of my head game wise. Maybe just like a surprise game. Or a new IP. There's been a lot of I've
definitely.
seen a lot of talk of maybe a new Uncharted, but with like his daughter. If you
Right.
know anything about Uncharted,
Well, I think you also have the games that have been under wraps for so long that people
of
are just
course,
like blowing up over. Like where is GTA 6?
of course.
Where like the development for that is unreal. And we finally had the leaks this year
Yeah,
of the gameplay. So obviously it's getting closer if they're actually starting to beta test gameplay and stuff. Um, how much longer do we have to wait for that? I'm trying to think of some other big games, you know. I don't know. I don't think we've had a like obviously we know a new COD comes out every year. I don't think DICE has teased a new Battlefield yet.
oh,
So
true.
maybe they tease that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, yeah, I think that'll probably do it for us to for this episode. I'm glad you guys, if you're watching this, keep watching it.
Definitely.
Because this video will keep going until the next one comes out. Um, I'll put the socials for everything because I'll be posting back on to the Instagram. Uh the Instagram,
Yes.
ragtag underscore podcast. And then I do have a TikTok for us. Hopefully that will, I'll put some stuff on there, some clips, some tasty licks. Follow my boy Zach.
Darn right.
And also if you need a mortgage, call this man. Call this
Listen,
man.
Gold Tier Lender with Maryland Mortgage Program. I'll get you all done all the way up and down the East Coast. Gonna get Josh's house eventually.
Yes,
It's gonna be good. So
gonna be good.
follow us. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We have a ton of great conversations coming up. Me and Josh are sports enthusiasts, especially as we dip into MLB starting, the NFL starting, things like that. Our conversations are going to get better, juicier, and we're two pretty funny guys. So stay along for the ride.
Ragtag Crew, stay with us. Peace out.
Peace.